Hello, cellos! The next concept we're looking at in the secret book is hooked bows. This is all the way in lesson 12 on page 31. So we've already talked about staccato notes and that there are multiple different ways to articulate a sound using your bow. So we're really going to be focusing here on your right hand. So with staccato, you've got the pinch, pull, and the release. You're going to create tension in your bow by pulling against the string without making any sound, and then you release that tension. And that gives the sound a little bit of a spike at the beginning, a pinch. Staccato is sharp and pointed. So when you do that multiple times, you have a pinch and a release, pinch, release. And you get a sound that's a little bit more separated and a little bit, well, pointed. So it's not going to be your legato smooth bow where you're using the same amount of bow, indiscriminately across the notes. And so now we're talking about different ways of organizing staccato notes, and one of those is in a hooked bow. So like slurs are attaching more than one note to the same bow, hooked bows are the same thing, but with staccato notes as opposed to legato ones. So here on page 32, we're looking at the difference between separate bows, where you're going down, up, and then when you're slurring them, you're going to go down, up, but there's no noticeable separation between the notes themselves. So for example, in this little rhythm we have the notes sort of flow into each other. But if we're doing that with staccatos and we're hooking those, it's still going to be down, down, up, but this time you'll have noticeable separation between the notes. And that's the goal with hooked bows, is to be able to tell when one note stops and ends, even though it's on the same bow. So we're going to be looking at the song Sonho de Valsa, which is at the bottom of page 32. And this is just a waltz exercise to have you practicing hooked bows, mostly up bow. And as you can see later on in the piece, a hooked bow doesn't require there to only be two notes hooked together. You can hook 7 notes together if you want to. It really just depends on the composer. So in the third line, we're going to see 3 notes hooked together. We're also going to see a couple slurs, so you have to watch out for when the notes have dots over them, indicating a hooked bow, and when they don't, which would indicate a normal slur. So let's go ahead and look at Sonho de Valsa at a slower tempo, and then you can pause this video, go back, see if there's something that you missed, play it a few times at that tempo, and then we'll give it a try at a quicker tempo. Here it is at a slow tempo. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. Make sure that you hold the dotted half notes for the full length. And there's a couple of other interesting things we've got. We've got several octave jumps. So in the first measure and the second measure, we're going from an open D to a 4th finger D on the A string. That's a full octave apart. And then in the second measure, a 1st finger A up to the open A, again another full octave apart. So you should really be practicing your string crossing here. The fortunate thing about the 2 up bows being hooked is that you can use less bow and still get the quality of a staccato note. And then because the first note in each measure has to account for that difference in space, the first note has to have a little bit more bow, a little bit more speed, and therefore a little bit more emphasis. So you get the quality of a waltz where you have sort of a heavier first step and then a light steps 2 and 3. Dun, 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 dun. Done. I know we've talked about that before. So let's go ahead and try it at a slightly faster tempo. 1, ready, go. notice there are a couple instances, like in the third measure and then in the fifth measure, where you have 1-1, first finger of the D string, immediately followed by first finger on the A string. I recommend using sort of the side of your finger, or maybe the squishy part, the meat of your finger, to cover both strings at once, so you're sort of barring those two notes. So rather than having to switch your fingers quickly between, you can sort of play it without moving your fingers. And practice predicting where your fingers are going to be and maybe laying them down on two strings at once so that you can sort of have a little bit more dexterity. So again, in the sixth measure, I'm going to have my fourth finger on the D string, but I'm going to already have my other three fingers on the A string, so I can very easily play those without too much movement on the part of my left hand. So that's just something you'll have to get used to, is using tunnel fingers and being able to place your fingers in advance by reading ahead in your music and knowing which string everything has to go on. Let's try it at a slightly faster tempo. 1, ready, go.